Okay, for the next topic, we will talk about nested functions and closures. So, um, you can nest function into another function. So, the nested inner function is private to its containing outer function. So, for example, add squares. Then we have an argument of a and b. Then we have an inner function, a nested function with an x as an argument. Then we will just return the x multiplied by x. Then in here, in our outer function, our main function of add squares, we need to return a value here, or else we can get the value inside of this one. So we will return square our function, and a plus square b. Oops, what's that? Okay. If we will console log add squares function, for example, we have 2 and 3. So this should return 13. Or let's try it. 13. So you might ask why 13? Because just a sec. Okay, so why we have this 13? So we have a function called add squares. So we called it here. Then we have a value of 2 as a 3 b. Then we have a nested function called square. Then we will multiply the value into itself. So we have the return value of square. So 2 multiplied by 2 is 4, plus 3 multiplied by 3 is 9. So 9 plus 4 equals 13. So I hope you got it. So to summarize, the inner function, this one, can only be accessed from statement in this outer function. So the inner function forms a closure that can be used in these arguments and variables outside of the function. So for this one, we didn't specify a variable. So while the other outer function cannot use the arguments and variables of the inner function. So we can have another example. So for example, we have a function. So this is our outside function. Excuse. Then we have an argument of x. Then we have an inside function, a nested function with y argument. So we will just return x and y. So we will just add these two. And in this one, we need to call the inside function. So this should be returned. So if we will console log our answer function into 3, so think of this one like you're just giving a number and multiply and adds to whatever you give. For example, 3. Then I think we need to return this one. Okay, now the number. So outside 3. So I think we need to properly call them. Okay, so we need to call. I'm sorry. We need to call the function inside of it. So we need to have another variable called result, and we will call our um the variable that we declared fn inside. Then we will console log result. Okay, it's correct now because earlier we didn't specify what number we will put here. So for the next one, we will talk about the preservation of the variables. So notice how x is preserved. This one inside when inside it's returned this. So a closure must prevent the arguments and variables in all scopes in references. So what you noticed earlier, we didn't have a result without calling this one because this one is protected from this function. That's why we need to call it again. So since each call provides potentially different arguments, a new closure is created for each call to the outside. So the memory can be freed only when the return inside is no longer accessible. So um, this is not different from storing references into other objects, but it's often less obvious because one does not set the reference directly and cannot inspect them. So for our next example, we will try a multi-nested functions. So it is a function within a function within a function. So for example, we have a function A, then a function B, function C. So we will just console log. For we will just add these three arguments. I'm sorry, it should be XYZ. So in this closure, we will return our function C. I think this is enough. So we have three here. And then in this closure, we will return our B function here. Then for this example, we will put 2. Then for this our outer function, we will return 1. So if we will console log this one, console.log, this should be return 6 because we are just adding this one. 3 plus 2, 5 plus 2, I plus 1 is equals to 6. 6. So in this example, C is accessed, this C is accessed by this B, and this B's argument Y is accessed by A's X. So this can be done because this B forms a closure including A, and this C forms a closure including B. So because B closures, this one, includes A and C, so A and C can be accessed, both B and A arguments and variables. So in other words, this our function C can change the scope of B and A because uh, it is the most the most nested function in our global function. So in the verse, however, um, in A, so our function A, it can access the arguments inside the function C because any argument in the variable of B, which is C variable, which is also C variable, uh, it remains private to only B. Okay, so I will explain it in Tagalog. I will repeat it in Tagalog. So sa ating multiply nested functions, we have meron tayong function A, tapos may laman siyang function B, tapos may laman siyang function C. So itong function C, closure siya ng function B, tapos itong function B, closure siya ng function A. So itong function C, itong mga arguments niya or kung ano man pinasok mo na variables inside of it, hindi siya ma-access ni function A. Pero kapag ang function C naman ay gusto mag-access sa function B, pwede siya kasi siya yung innermost closure among the three. So in our next topic, we will talk about name conflicts. So when two arguments or variables in the scope of a closure have the same name, siguro example na lang, pare outside ng function natin, tapos may variable tayo na 5, tapos may function na naman tayo sa loob, inside x, tapos re-return natin yung x. So napansin nyo, ito yung yung ginawa niya instead of this. So 2. So we will return inside function. So console log console. Okay, so napansin niyo bakit dalawa yung parenthesis natin and yung isa walang laman? Because hindi tayo nag-declare ng argument sa first function. Then we need to declare sa inside function natin because we have an argument here of x. So ang correct answer dito, ayun, 20. Dapat ang sagot dito 10 kasi ito yung global variable natin. So this is what they call name conflicts. So when two arguments or variables na nasa loob ng scope natin have the same name, x and x dito at pala x dito, there's what you call name conflict. So be careful when you are naming variables. So hindi dapat sila magkapareho. So sa mga nested scopes, takes the highest precedence while the outer scope takes the lowest. So, may ano ba? Importance. I think the word it's not the exact term I want to use, but I think the precedence is the most exact because in yung ano niya, so in Tagalog, yung ipa-priority ng X na to kung ano yung kung ano yung nasa loob ng nitong function na to. And yung less prioritize niya kung ano yung nasa labas. So the name conflicts happen at the statement dito sa return X na to. And in between inside the parameter of X. This one. So be careful when you are naming your arguments and your variables. Make sure na hindi sila magkapareho. So for the next topic, we will talk about closures. So closures are the one most powerful features in JavaScript. I think most of the developers minamali na yung closures because this is for me, ito yung the way na para maging private yung isang variable. So JavaScript allows for the nesting of functions and grants the inner function full access to all variables and functions defined outside the outer function. So however, yung outer function natin does not have the access to the variables and function inside of our inner function. So, para siyang OOP na nagpo-provide ng encapsulation for the variables na nasa loob ng ating inner function. Tsaka pala, since this inner function has access sa scope natin, itong nasa labas, the variables and function defined in the outer function will live longer than the duration of the outer function execution. So if the inner function manages to survive beyond the life of the outer function, a closure is created when the inner function is somehow made available to any scope outside the outer function. So I will give you another sample of this one para magets nyo. So if you want to read the whole documentation of this one, just search for functions MDN developer ng Mozilla Firefox. So yung outer function natin, we have a variable called name. Then we have I'm sorry, I keep using var instead of let. Get name. So we have a function. So i-return lang natin yung name natin. So here, we will return the inner function. So parang ine-expose natin siya sa ating function na get. Our pet pala sa our outer function. Ito yung beauty ng mga closures Meron siyang nagpo-provide siya ng encapsulation for our get name. So for example, my pet equals sa function natin siguro pang Chito. Tapos we need to call my pet. Okay, if you notice na we need to return this function kasi may encapsulation method na tayo. So without this, so ayan, for example, we will console love we will just console log pet tapos dito. Ayun. So, what you notice, we still have a get name function. So, if you want to get the value of Jito para ma-show nyo sa ano nyo, sa browser nyo, you need to call another function again from Jito. So that's how closures work. So these closures can be much more complex than kesa sa example na to. So an object containing methods for manipulating the inner variables of our outer function can be returned. Okay, so for example, siguro sa next video yung medyo madugo yung ano natin example natin, marami siya. Okay, see you on the next video.